Welcome back to Jennifer Broussard Art. Today we will paint this sunset ocean scene on a 5x7 block that I made with Arch's cold pressed paper. The video will be linked in the description. DaVinci paints and these paintbrushes. So let's get started. I did this painting last week when I was just playing around in my sketchbook. I had this reference photo up on my iPad and I was just kind of looking at it and thinking about how I could make this. I'm going to try to recreate that, but first I want to show you what I did on the paper with a pencil. I'm going to choose a fat marker with red to show you what I did to get the foreground. So about a third of the way, little more than a third of the way down, I drew a line. And then for this section of wave, I drew a line here. I made a little spot for the surfer, and then I continued the line. And then for the top of the waves, I'm going to get a skinnier pen. For the top of the waves, I just did this. And then for where the foam is, I did a squiggly line. And then all of this down here is just going to be loose, going back and forth with a paintbrush. The surfer is the focal point, so I'm just going to put him where I want him to be, which is right about here. Just going to make a spot right there, and that's his wave that he's waiting. He's riding the top of that little wave and skipping it and waiting for another one to come. So then below him, I'm going to put the crest of the wave that's breaking on the sand. And then I'm going to also put the bottom part of the foam down here. This is where the curl is of the wave. And then all of this down here is the foreground, which we'll do with some light strokes of the paintbrush. So now we can do the top part above the surfer is about, it's kind of farther away. So I'm going to make this section be a little bit bigger, and it stops right about there. And then all this out here is just little tiny light valued little dabs of paintbrush. If we look at this for a quick second, we see some dark and some light, and then lifted out sun. And then in the water, we see just some very faint streaks, a stripe of more streaks, a stripe of darker area with more streaks, and they're fatter and bigger as we get closer to the viewer. And then this is the white wave cresting, and then this is under the wave. And then this is a 3/4 inch flat. I'm getting just some plain yellow right over here. And I'm only showing you this part of the palette today because I'm not going to use anything beyond this side of it. I have some orange mixed, I have some blue mixed. I'm going to start with the yellow. So first I'm going to wet the sky. And I'm going to add yellow. I'm going to add orange all the way across. And now I'm going to get some red rose deep, and I'm going to be pretty generous with the pigment. I'm going to add some yellow to that. I have a really nice bright orange now. And I'm holding the brush straight up. So what I'm going to do is, so you can see what I'm doing, I am holding the brush perpendicular to the paper, and I'm going right across. And it's coming down because I'm holding my paper up so you can see. If I hold it flat, you're not going to see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to go over the whole thing with this. And then over here, more, and over here, more pigment. That bothers me that I went under into the water. And I'm going to take my littler brush. I have a 1/2 inch flat, and I'm going to put it right onto the paper, and I'm going to twirl it around. And it's going to remove pigment in a circle. I rinsed out, and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to take a paper towel and dab out the rest of it so that the paint doesn't creep back in. That's not quite a circle, so I'm going to do a little more over here. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of blue to make some purple and add it down here. Get some more red rose deep. Add it. And then add it over here. I'm going to get the yellow by itself and go back and forth above the sun. And I'm going to mix it with the red rose deep. I want a little bit more pigment. I'm going to get a lot of pigment and do that. I want there to be a lot of contrast with the sun in the sky. Okay, more yellow. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I know it looks a little scraggly. The sun's looking a little bit funny right there. I think actually it's not as round, so I'm gonna just put a little more color right here at the horizon so that it's more round. That looks a little better. Take that off and dry that off. Okay, I'm going to dry that. Now I'm going to get a really light value of this color. I'm going to add a little yellow to it. And I'm going to paint it across all of this. Nice and wet. I'm not going to go onto the white of the wave or down below that. Okay, I'm going to dry that. Off camera, I added a tiny bit of blue right down here, and then with a wet brush, just moved it around. And then I used an eradicator brush to clean up the top of the horizon. And now I'm ready to work on this body of water. So now I'm going to get a very light value of this light blue, and I'm going to sweep the brush back and forth just until about this line. And it has real small little waves because it's far away. The waves aren't any smaller, they just seem smaller because of where we are when we're looking at them. And now with a wet brush with clean water, I'm going to go across what I just did. Some of them will stay the way I had them. Some of them will blend. Okay. It's still really light. And in the photo, this part of the photo is actually really light, kind of pink and blue. So now I'm going to go down to this section here, and I'm going to add, I'm going to do the same thing, but these little wavelets are going to be a little bit bigger. I want there to be a smooth transition between here and here. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over them with some clean water. And some of them will blend, stay big. And now same thing, underneath the surfer, here's the surfer right here. He's sitting right on top of a wave that hasn't broken, but it's the top of a wave. And I'm going to just put just some light blue right above this crest of the wave in front of it. That's going to be our white. Now I'm going to dry that, and then I'll add some more blue to all of these. Actually, you know what? I need this to be whiter. I want this to be whiter than the cresting wave. So I'll just dab it off with a tissue. There we go. And some water fell off the paintbrush right there. Okay. I'm going to dry that. All right, I'm going to come back up here to this middle part, which is the part that's right above the surfer. And with the corner of the brush, I'm going to add some directional waves. I guess swells. And then down here, I'm going to add some bigger ones. I'm going to use the corner of the brush again. I'm going to go a little darker here. Using the corner of the brush really has a mind of its own. It does a skinny thing, and then just the angle that you're using, it just does its own thing. Kind of neat. And now this we want to keep light. This is much easier on bigger paper. It's kind of difficult to recreate something that you did in the moment. Okay, that's pretty good. And now this, I'm going to just do phthalo blue. Get a little bit of phthalo blue, get a little bit of that green, get a little bit of seaglass. If you have some phthalo green, that would look pretty. And I'm going to now fill in these waves. And now I'm going to remove what I just did. A lot of it will stay because it's staining paint. Just a damp brush to kind of suck it all up. Some of it stays white and some of it turns blue. But see how it's a different texture than the rest of the water. Okay, I'm going to dry all of that. Let's get the rest of our first layer on. I'm going to wet just this little bit under the crest of the wave with clean water. Don't have to be super neat about it because waves are not super neat. And I'm going to put some of the blue. This is where the curl is. And then everywhere that white foam is hitting the sand, this is the sand, it's really dark. And I'm just sort of scribbling back and forth. I'm gonna get some indanthrene blue. Actually, I'll just add some red to the blue. Now we have darker blue. All of this that I just did is going to be darker. There's a lot of glimmering white. This is really dark. I'm going to have to get in there really with some more pigment to get that really dark. And now I'm going to wet the wave with some more pigment. This is not what I did in my first one, but I'm trying this out. I'm going to put some more of this pigment in it, kind of in the bottom. And I'm going to put salt. This is kind of purpley. I'm not touching this part. And get out the salt. I'm going to put a whole bunch in there. I'm going to take it off of here. I don't like it under here. And then under here, I'm going to get some indanthrene blue, pretty dark pigment. And put it underneath where the wave is crashing. Some of it will go up in here. Just sort of work it. I don't like that. I remember what I did now. That's what I did, is I dabbed it off with paper towel so it would be lighter. Yay, I remembered. So forget the salt, forget all that. Just put the pigment on the crashing wave and dab it off. Now I'm going to add some more pigment to the barrel right here. I'm adding a little bit of the seaglass just because it's pretty. Now this value is practically black. I'm adding some red to this blue. And you know what, I don't think that's going to work. I'm going to grab indanthrene blue and some neutral tint and add some of that purple to it. I'm going to add it on dry paper and have it come over to the left and then over to the right, but not as much. Okay, now with a damp brush, I'm just softening that line. And now we have that color that we put on earlier peeking through. And I'm going to add it down here in some of these spots for some glimmer. Okay. Now I'm going to wet the area below the surfer. If you can still see your line, it doesn't matter, just as long as it's below the surfer and I still have my mark there. Spread that water around. I'm not wetting down here because this is behind the cresting wave. And if you look at the reference photo, there's I'm just going to say photo-wise, there's like 1/4 of an inch of very light color. So I'm not going to do any more color up above the line of the cresting wave. So I'm going to grab this dark color that we made and I'm going to start putting it in up here near the surfer. Didn't get that wet apparently. Not a lot of this is white. I'm going to get a little bit of the green. And then right under the surfer, we've got this kind of a line and some more of those. And I think we need to darken the cresting wave. I'm going to wet the top of it and even come down to the dark part. I just love how this looks. And I'm going to add some of this green. It's too much. And have some of it come down. This is looking really good. It's not quite such a hard line. There isn't such a hard division in the ocean between these, so I'm going to make them a little softer and bring some of this green up here. This side over here has a little more color, a few more waves than it does down by the surfer. So let's wet that and then crisscross some of this color from one area to another. A little bit of dark back here. A little bit of blue where the surfer is. He's not totally haloed. A little bit even up here in the background, sort of mid paper. There's a little bit over here. It's really just dashes. Soften, get a little dark. Okay. It's looking like some ocean now. I think this one's better than the one I did before. This just needs a little more like dry brush or something. really like how this water looks, and I really think that we got the cresting wave action here. It's not the focal point, but it does look like there's activity here. I just want to smooth out this light area that is supposed to be above the crest of the wave, and I'm using a scrubber brush. This is a Dick Blick Wonder White number 2. I'm not being really gentle because I'm kind of done painting. I'm not going to worry about the surface of the paper right now. So you just get it wet and you scrub it back and forth where you want to lighten some areas. I want like some more shape right here. So I'm going to go back and forth in a C shape. And then behind this wave as well, we need to lighten it. Think of it as stripes. Kind of lost our white stripes. You can see I'm getting the surface of the paper up, scrubbing it out. And now the surfer guy needs the wave to be right under him. And now just with a dry brush on, I'm sorry, not a dry brush, brush on dry paper, I'm just adding a few little snippets of action, a little bit more color. See how this is a lot? This part is a little less than a lot, and then this is just gradually fading into the very bright ocean, the reflections on the ocean. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in the sun. And then right underneath where it is setting, I'm going to add a little yellow there. And now with my 1/2-inch flat, I'm going to add some of the sky reflections into the white areas of the, I'm just getting some quinacridone rose. I'm going to add some here, soften it with some water. I'm going to get a little bit of orange. Actually, I want that orange to be a little brighter. There. Very, very light value. And a really light touch. People will see your reflections. I think I want a little more quinacridone rose. Red rose deep. If you have quinacridone rose, use that. And now, finally, we'll do the surfer. And I'll get a lot more neutral tint and add it to this mix. Get a little purple in there. And I don't have him drawn, but I see that he's sitting kind of hunched. There's a little board right here that we can see. Here's his hunched body. Here's his shoulder. And his arm is very thin and it's coming down to touch this surfboard. And then there's a little pin head. I think it needs a little more right there he can be sitting on. And a little bit rounder head. There we go. If you want to take it a little further, you can add another friend, because really, should you be surfing alone? I'm going to add a friend right here. And maybe they're talking to each other. I'm going to blend their surfboards into the water and leave them alone. To compare the two, I did this one very spontaneously. I had no plan. I really like the colors that I used. I think they're much brighter and more clear. I like the sun. I like the effect I had here. And now that I think about it, I think I put the yellow in when the sky was still wet. And I remember doing the sky once and leaving it alone. Whereas on this one, I did one layer and I did a second layer. And then at the very end of the painting, when it was dry, I added the yellow. So that's a different effect. I do like this area on this one better than on this one. So I had a little practice on this one to do this one. Overall, I like them both. They are different. They're done on different paper, different times of day, different moods. And recreating a painting that you've done in the past is kind of hard to do. But I think we did pretty good. I would love to see yours. So if you painted this with me today, please share it with me on my Facebook or my Instagram. You can message me there and I can post it on my Facebook and my Instagram art page. And with just a few swipes and gentle coaxing, we have a pretty ocean scene. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.